I think, that was the best chance I ever had and the most time I ever had to put into having the best chance to actually win an iconic bike race. Yeah. And I almost did it, but you know what? I didn't. And forever, I will not have won the race. Yeah. I will be second place. But that made me go back and try to do it again the following year. Doing hard things with friends is fun, and even when you lose, you win. In 2014, I took second at the Unbound 100 gravel race, and superstar creator and now Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt at Blake of Today took third. Then and now, the races at Unbound are the biggest, most competitive gravel races in the world. Well, maybe other than the World Championships, but that's probably up for debate. This episode originally dropped in 2019, and it's a conversation between Blake and me about our experience at Unbound 100 in 2014. I skipped the weddings of several close friends. You may or may not know who you are, and I trained 20 plus hours, many weeks, for months to prepare for this event. When we did the race, and when we originally recorded this episode, honestly, it kind of bummed me out that I didn't win the race in 2014 or in 2015 when I went back and got second again with the side of food poisoning or maybe something that flew up from running over some cow dung that flew into my mouth that left me unable to hold down food for a week after the race that year. Now, I'm just grateful for the memories I have of training for and competing in this brutal event with Blake and for everything that happened along the way, including losing. With Unbound coming up this weekend, I wanted to drop this episode again for anyone who's new to the show and anyone who has an interest in Unbound and gravel racing. This may be difficult to imagine, but 2014 was a time when there were 0 tubeless gravel tires on the market, and I ran 50 PSI and Tube Clement MSOs that year, and I lived and got second place. A lot has changed since then, and a lot has changed since I created Choose the Hard Way. When I started this project in 2017, I thought the point was to share lessons learned at the limits of human experience. Over time, I've realized people, including me, forget most of the specific details that they hear on podcasts. It's kind of in one ear and out the other, but they almost always remember how podcasts make them feel. And at their best, the stories we hear on great podcasts motivate and inspire us to take action and to be more present, conscious, and aware in the areas of our lives that we care about the most. Thanks for listening. This episode is brought to you by the Better Lab. Sleep is the greatest performance enhancer on the planet, and the science to improve sleep is straightforward. Putting it into action on your own, on the other hand, can be challenging. That's why I co-founded the Better Lab, to help guide active people like you to mindfully build conscious, science-backed practices to sleep better that stick. We're an early stage startup, and right now, the Better Lab app is free in the Apple App Store. You can find the link to get the app in the Apple App Store in the show notes. Check it out, and as an early user, we want to hear your feedback to help us continually improve the product. Shout out to Hardway listeners like Chris Scott, Shannon Jones, and Jeffrey Nebeluni, who've been using the app to get better sleep and have graciously shared their feedback with us. Thank you. You can learn more at thebetterlab.io.
So I've done the Dirty Kansas twice. I did it both times with you. You actually did it 1 year by yourself.
I did do it 1 year by myself.
And that was, from what I gather, I remember you coming back from doing the race and just being totally inspired, totally stoked about taking it on the next year. And I actually wanted to hear from you what triggered it for you? What made you want to go back and do that again? Because you did it pretty much unsupported. I mean, you were fit, but it was more or less off the couch compared to how fit we were when we went and did it. So yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, that was a complete and total failure. I totally fucked up that bike race in a very severe way. I was in pretty good shape going into the race that year. And when you race the Dirty Kansas half pint, which is the version that we did, the 105 mile version, the first 25 to 30 miles or so are the same route as the full Dirty Kansas, the Dirty Kansas 200. And that year, the race started, and the 100 or a half pint starts after the 200. There are about 2,000 people who do the race. So the 200 riders had started, then I think you wait like 5 or 10 minutes and they start the half pint, and you're riding a shorter distance, and the people at the sharp end of that race are riding very fast. So you quickly find yourself caught up in traffic. You have to pass hundreds, if not probably more than 1,000 people if you want to like get up to the front end of the race.
It's harrowing.
Yeah. And yeah, like, if you haven't done a gravel bike race before, which I would venture most people listening to this podcast have not, you might think like, hey, like what's the big deal? But when you get that many people on a narrow gravel road, there typically is like one, maybe two good lines. And then if you drift off that line, particularly in Emporia, Kansas, which is known as the Flint Hills because they're jagged pieces of flint comprising this gravel, you can cut your tire and then you're out of the race quickly, because if you have to stop to fix a flat, game over. You're unlikely to make up that time, although some have, as we'll get to later in this race. So that year, I was, I guess, doing well, I would say. I didn't really know what to expect. And by the time I got to that point where the 200 route diverged from the 100 route, I was super focused. I was riding really fast. I was at the front of the field, I think. And I was just kind of head down. I vaguely recall seeing a sign, was with a fast group of riders, kept going. And then after maybe 20 minutes, I started to think like, I don't know, this doesn't like feel quite right. At the time, I didn't know how to use turn by turn on my Garmin. I don't even know if there was a way to download turn by turn directions at that time. So I didn't have it loaded onto my Garmin, which is to say, I remember pulling over to the side of the road because the ride is unsupported, but they have people from the local Jeep club there in Emporia, Kansas, or regionally. They come out and they're just there kind of alongside the course to help people who abandon or have really severe problems who need to actually get off the course. So I suppose if you had an injury or something. And I remember stopping and asking someone from the Jeep club, like, hey, like, am I on the right route? I'm doing the half pint. I'm not doing the full race. That person didn't actually know. So I got back on my bike. I continued to ride, and I started to ask my competitors around me. They all said they were doing the 200, but nobody seemed to know which route was which. And then I finally talked to someone who was like, hey, dude, you're like 15 miles in the wrong direction at this point. And I believe I had a tailwind at that point because of the direction of the course. So I had to turn around into a headwind. The terrain is incredibly rolling, which you don't imagine for Kansas, but that's why it's called Flint is the first part, hills is the second part, because it's just endless rolling hills all day. And I had to ride back into a headwind for 15 miles to get back to the point of the course where I'd gone off the course. And then I had to complete the rest of the race. And my then girlfriend, now wife, Molly, was waiting at the one checkpoint in the half pint. And instead of me arriving after 55, 60 miles, whatever it is, to that first checkpoint, I had ridden 75 or 80 miles. And once I got back to where I had missed the turn, I swear to God, I was riding into a fucking headwind for like 2 straight hours, like a very severe headwind. And I was at the very, very back of the field. So there was no one to draft off of. Also, there wasn't a lot of public information out there at the time. I want to say I did this in like 2013, maybe.
Yeah.
That sounds right. About right. Yeah. I think it may have even been 2012, actually. No information about gear, no information about the course itself. There just wasn't a lot of information out there. So I had taken like the advice of the race Bible. Like I was carrying a fucking compass. I had a compass. I had a compass.
You're going to navigate your way back by the stars. 2
water bottles, gigantic Camelback. Like I was so loaded down. It was like making my junk hurt when I started off. I mean, I may have even had.
And for context, you're a heavy disaster planner, anyways.
I am. Yeah. You might think I'm a prepper if you saw me at the office. For
sure.
I'm carrying a lot of supplies everywhere I go. Yeah, if you work with me, you're probably laughing.
Yeah, I've never seen you in a meeting without 3 beverages.
Yeah, 3 beverages. I need a snack. I might become hypoglycemic. You never know, right? Anyhow, I was carrying a lot of shit with me, and I was riding into a headwind for a goddamn long time. I finally got to the checkpoint, and I mean, I think they had practically packed that checkpoint up, and Molly was like, are you okay? I thought something horrible had happened to you. And I was like, well, something horrible did happen to me. I ended up going 30 miles off course, at the time I was at the very front of the race. And from there, I kind of I had to shift my mindset in a little bit more context. I had taken time off from work. I had trained for probably 5 months, probably up to, I'm guessing I was probably riding 300 miles a week at the time, which is probably, I don't know, 15 to 20 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was training quite a bit. It was a different time in my life. And yeah, it just was a total fucking disaster, a total shit show. I didn't have the right gear. I went off course. I was just out in the middle of nowhere. And there were definitely moments when I was why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But the mantra that I had that would guide me later, that I'll just throw out here now, is why am I doing this? Because this is what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
That's all I told myself.
Yeah.
And I just kept going. And, there are much harder situations in life and sport than these contrived situations we manufacture to test ourselves. Thank God we don't have wild animals chasing us and trying to eat us, or we're not in a war zone, or the victims of genocide, or many other things that are truly horrific. These are self-imposed tests, but it's part of how some people choose to grow mentally and physically. At least for me, endurance sports have always been this vehicle for existential growth, for learning more about myself, learning more about other people. And I very rarely have ever won anything. I have won races a few times, but more than anything else, it's about the race to find my best and highest self.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So 2 things. One, just for context for people, gravel racing is mostly unsupported, and it rides this edge between having an actual adventure and being in danger, right? So they give you just enough leash so as not to get yourself into trouble. So the Kanza, this race, is unsupported. There's no one behind you. There's no sag wagon.
Minimal course markings. At least it may be different now.
And it's something that you seek out because it's exciting, but it's also a consequence of that type of racing. So 2, this sounds like a horrible experience. What made you fired up to come back, get your buddy, and pull me along to do this terrible thing with you?
I mean, you've always got to grab your buddy and just jump back into the fight. But I think that year, how the rest of that ride sorted out is there are just aspects of the experience that I found to be really powerful. I'm from the Midwest. I don't love the landscape of the Midwest. Particularly in winter, I find it to be incredibly bleak and dark and depressing. But there's also a lot of beauty, and particularly in the Flint Hills, and just being out in the middle of nowhere. It's some of the only prairie left in the United States, actually. And so you're kind of out there seeing the country in a state that's kind of similar to what it used to be a long, long time ago. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful in a way that mountains aren't beautiful, or the ocean is not beautiful. And you're getting to experience the force of nature to some degree. You're getting to experience wind, you're getting to experience the resistance of the rocks under your wheels. I might be going a little bit too far here, but there is something pretty cool about the experience. And it's very different from I'm, at that time, a common training ride was like, I'm going to go up Highway 1 through Marin, like Sausalito up to Point Reyes. And it's probably one of the most beautiful stretches of road in the entire world. It's like mountains to your right, the Pacific Ocean to your left. But there's something really beautiful about the stark beauty of the prairie as well. So that was really cool. And then also the experiences I had with other people at that event. I remember once I like went through that checkpoint, at a certain point, you change direction on the course. So I was kind of out of the direct headwind after maybe 90 miles of riding or so, keeping in mind I'd done an extra 30 inadvertently. And, all you can do is smile and like keep going. And I actually ended up running into a handful of riders who were in distress. I met one guy, I was passing a guy up a hill, and he happened to break his chain right as I passed him. Had I been racing, I just would have been head down and glad that wasn't me and kept going. But I actually ended up stopping. I happened to have a chain tool because, as we've discussed, I had this prepper bag I was carrying on my back.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't have an extra chain for him.
Yeah. What? I may have had an extra chain that year. But no, I didn't, because what I ended up doing is this guy was not very mechanically proficient. I ended up converting his bike into a single speed. I'm glad I wasn't him, but he was at least able to continue. And I think I may have run into him later, and he actually finished the race. And he was just really grateful that he'd had that experience. And then I met another person who had a flat and, not very mechanically proficient. I think that she had already like 5 flats. All of her tubes were gone. I happened to be carrying like 4 or something. So I was happy to like stop and I changed that person's flat. She gave me some cookies. I was like, okay, this is pretty rad. It kind of reminded me of the early days of cross-country mountain biking, which I was involved in during the 90s in Missouri. And it was just like a cool grassroots scene. It was very competitive, but also there was just like a very cool social element to it. And like both with cross-country mountain biking, with hardcore and punk rock, which we talked about earlier, and like with gravel racing, I felt like I was in on a secret. Like I was at the beginning of something really, really cool, really powerful, really transformative. There was a catalyst, and it was bringing people together in a new and different way. And it was just incredibly exciting to me. And yeah, so when I got to the finish line, I was just completely destroyed. And I remember I saw an acquaintance from Kansas City, where I grew up, who had done the race, and we had kind of been neck and neck in that first 30 miles. And I remember I had actually pulled away from him, and that's around the time I put my head down and ended up going 30 miles off course. And as I was pulling into Emporia and crossing and heading towards the finish line, I saw him driving off in his truck, and he like stopped and waved at me. He was like freshly showered, and I think he may have won the race that year.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? Like I've got to come back. I've got some unfinished business here, and I had to finish very near like dead fucking last in that race. I felt like I had unfinished business. And I don't even remember what I came back and how I talked about it at that time. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember you telling me definitely the going off course story, that it was a horrible experience and that we had to go back and do it together. So, I mean, that and you had just a giant list of sort of,
I like to make lists.
Yeah, of prep and of how we're going to structure our training, how we were going to structure our caloric intake, what kind of gear. Again, the Kanza is now huge. There are novels worth of Reddit conversations just on tire choice for this race. So people obsess about gear. Again, because it's unsupported and because it plays such a huge factor. And so you had all of these awesome notes, and I feel like you got back and we went to work.
Yeah, definitely. It was time to put the iron on the forge.
Yeah.
And start hammering, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to say before we move into what happened next. My original inspiration for even wanting to go do this race is because I met this guy, Jeff Krakowy, in the early 2000s. I was a journalist for a long time, as some of the listeners may or may not know. And I wrote about people, places, and things at the limits of human experience. And an area of great curiosity and passion of mine has always been cycling and human performance. And I used to have a column in Mountain Bike magazine, a Rodale publication, rest in peace. But every month I would highlight some interesting personality from the world of mountain biking. And Jeff was a guy at the time, he was a wrench in a bike shop in Iowa. I don't remember which town, but like just the middle of nowhere. And he, along with Guitar Ted, was one of the original founders, and he actually competed in Trans Iowa, which is one of the, like, that's like the godfather of all gravel racing. That race was, I believe, like 357 miles, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood. It was insane. They finally stopped that race. They don't do it anymore. But ever since I met Jeff and heard about that race, interviewed him about it, being from the Midwest myself, I was kind of fascinated by gravel racing. And I just was like, gosh, at some point I've got to try this. And I think that at some point I realized, like, hey, if I don't actually like make the time, put in the work and go do this thing, then that someday is going to be never. And I'm never going to fucking do this. And I'm never going to find out, like, what does it take? How do you train for it? How do you actually do this thing? So that's, I think, what that first year was all about. And then the next 2 years were about a totally different forms of failure.
Cool, man. Should we get into it?
Yeah, totally. So you ended up getting roped into doing this. I know that you were really excited about taking time off work to go to the middle of Kansas. You were probably excited about the bike race. The rest of it, I'm not so sure about.
No, man, your family lived, and you should have told this to me. Your family lives like a block away from a QT, which,
that's Quick Trip.
Quick Trip,
yeah.
Which, as a touring musician back in the day, like Quick Trip is, it is like the wild card in Uno, man. It's nothing. There's nothing better than that. So I have a special place in my heart. I knew that Kansas City is an sort of an outcropping of Quick Trips, and that would have got me in.
And
there
in
alone.
Missouri.
Yeah.
And not in Kansas. There is a Kansas City, Kansas, but Kansas City proper is generally considered Kansas City, Missouri. Sorry, any listeners in KCK or Wyandotte County, but that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quick Trip, shout out. Anyhow, so you got roped into it, and then things started to get a little nasty. I think we had to get down.
Yeah. And for context, this wasn't totally out of the norm. We had been doing some pretty hard bike races leading up to this, right? We did the Tahoe Trail 100. We'd done a couple of local crazy events. The Mendo 100, the Tane Hammer.
Yeah.
Events that, beg you're sitting there doing them and you're wondering if the race promoter made a mistake. They're so hard that you're like, surely somebody's made a mistake. And they did not understand how hard this is. And I'm in a trap.
Yeah. And for people who don't know you and your history with cycling, at that time, I think that you had been riding maybe 3 or 4 years. You were very fit. I would say at the time you were most proficient at riding in straight lines without other people around you.
That's accurate. Yeah.
I guess at this point we could also, I don't know if you want to, if this is too shameful to disclose, but
God, bro. I mean,
you were a triathlete.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a triathlete. I didn't wear socks, my cycling shoes. I
talked about
ran, I swam.
Yeah. I talked about some of the ups and downs our relationship is earlier. And I think that it's ironic that, not to fast forward too much, but in this day and age, aero bars are now a part of gravel racing. It's a core part of how people win. Cause I talked about riding into a headwind for several straight hours. Like, gosh, if only I had aero bars. But there was a point during our training when we were like 65 miles out on an out and back ride. And Blake had aero bars on his bike at the time. We turned around. I had to stop I probably had to stop and pee. I have to pee a lot. I'm sorry y'all have to know that, but it's the truth. So I think I had stopped to take a nature break. Blake took that moment to kind of pretend that he hadn't seen me stop. And you really dropped the hammer. And you're very powerful in a straight line with no other riders around you. And when you don't have to have any skill.
I still stand by my version of the story, which is that I thought I was pulling at the time, and I
you
thought
just didn't look behind you for 10 miles.
In triathlons, you don't have to look back, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally.
There's no pace line, nobody's drafting you. So
Yeah.
I stand by the fact that I thought you were on my wheel.
Yeah.
And you would have called out had it gone otherwise.
Yeah, I was calling it out.
No,
You're
I think
ignoring it. Anyway, like we're too far ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, we made this decision. We're going back to Kansas.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the training looked like heading into this event at least a 6 to 8 hour ride on Saturdays, and then usually some kind of longer ride on Sundays as well. Every Friday night, I was in the kitchen making rice cakes. I ate a lot of rice cakes at this time. Although nutrition has never been has always been a limiter for me. And then during the week, super structured training, getting up early and going to a polo field and riding around in circles for 2 hours in the morning, getting really, really familiar with all of Andrew's different sort of mannerisms and things that he does when he rides a bike, which actually it ended up being really, really important later on because I can read you. And I know what like if you're having a good day, if you're having a bad day by just the way you're breathing.
It's almost, I mean, when you have a training partner in competitive cycling, it's similar to capoeira, battle dance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I got to know when to duck and when you're going to kick.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, so the training was pretty brutal. And I think the first year was worse than the second year because the first year, obviously, we didn't know what to expect, or I didn't know what to expect. You did, and that was probably why it was so bad. Is because I didn't know how hard this race was going to be, and you did, and so you were always. I think you were pushing really hard that first year. Yeah,
and I wrote a story about the race the first year. I think for maybe Road Bike Review, and then the second year we went back. I had a vision for what would be the ultimate gravel bike? And you know what it looks a lot like is gravel racing bikes today. But at the time I thought, you want a bike that's light. It'd be ideal to have tubeless tires. Electronic shifting would be great because I also saw people snapping derailleur cables out there. And man, if there's one thing you don't want to do, that first year I had like an extra derailleur cable. I was probably carrying an extra hanger, but I really didn't want to have to do any kind of roadside surgery on the bike. And you could still destroy an electronic shifting system, but I think it's a little bit less likely. So I ended up rounding up all of that kit. The only thing that I wasn't able to make happen, I was racing Clement MSOs. I think I may have raced those all 3 years, but they were great tires. I think there were no tubeless gravel tires at the time, so I tried to do a tubeless conversion on a conventional MSO, or the mechanic who helped me build the bike did, and it blew the tire off the rim and it didn't work. So I had to end up running tubes. But that was a pretty bomber setup. I do remember I only got that bike together maybe 2 weeks before the race.
That was it.
There's always that's another signature move. Is the equipment has come together at the last minute for me a few times for some of these major races, but I've been dependent on people whose gear I'm writing about flowing me stuff, and it kind of comes in when it comes in.
Yeah, we had 2 major training rides leading into this. This is the second year. And I had been riding on my bike that I was going to race on our entire training camp. So,
which is the right thing to do.
Right. And you switched. You were riding an aero road bike? Not aero road bike, but...
I was riding a regular road bike, and Niner had just come out with the RLT9. We're really getting in the weeds here, but it was one of the first production gravel bikes. The previous year I had ridden a Ridley CX bike that died in a cyclocross wreck that I had. But yeah, the RLT9 I think had just gone into production, and I got the frame like 2.5-3 weeks before the race.
Yeah,
which is a perfect time to start dialing in your seat position.
And I remember us being like halfway, not even halfway. We were like a quarter of the way into our big training ride, and you're like, man, this is really hard today. And I was like, what? And you're like, yeah, it just feels really hard. And I was like, bro, like you're on a gravel bike. You're not on a road bike right now. And it was like a brutal, like demoralizing little kick in the teeth. Because you were totally fit. It was just a different bike, a different feel. And we were heading into, this event is a bad mental state to be in for sure.
Yeah. And that particular bike, I really liked that bike, but it was really heavy. That bike was probably like 22 pounds.
Yeah. And those rides were definitely like between 8 and 10K of vertical climbing.
Yeah. We were towards the end, we were riding around 135 miles on our training rides. And then as we got closer to the event, it wasn't just about the distance, it was about the intensity. My normalized power would be around 290 to 300 watts for 7 or 8 hours. And we would throw in, my whole thing was like, we had to do at least 40 sprints during the ride. Do you remember that?
My stomach hurts right now, dude. Like, yeah.
But like at the top of every hill, like my thing was we would like maintain a very high normalized power, and we just would trade poles for the entire ride. And then every time the road went uphill and there was a crest in the road, we would do an all-out sprint.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Boy, we used to have a lot of time.
Jeez, dude. You got 2 kids now, huh?
Yeah, it's a miracle given how much time I've spent sitting on a bike seat. But those were some hard training rides, but they were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed them.
No, I do too. And, And to, to bring it back around, they prepared us appropriately for the event.
Yeah. And led to me later developing a heart problem. Yeah, for sure. I totally fucked my heart up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's, hard way. That's what this is about.
Yeah. We'll get to my arrhythmia later. But anyhow, yeah, they were hard rides. But I do remember 2 weeks out from that event, a week out, when we started to taper back, we still had some big rides. But for me, at least, I felt like I was really, really coming into form. Mm-hmm. And I felt I had great legs, and I felt really good going into the race.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt as fit as I've ever felt on a bike. It is definitely was like the most dedicated time I'd spent to probably just cycling, in, my entire time of cycling, which, relatively short at that point. But yeah, man. So let's talk about, race 1, leading up to it. What was dinner the night before? Where did we sleep? How did everything play out?
I think it starts with the car ride from Kansas City to the race. Yeah. So we, it wasn't just me that year. It was me and you, and Molly came with us again very graciously to crew for us. Cause again, like there's no SAGs, there are no supported rest stops. You have to bring your own support crew to Dirty Kansas. In the Half Pint, there's one rest stop or area where you can pit that's about 60 miles into the race. Molly took all of our gear, our drop bags and everything, and waited for us at that point. But we needed a bigger vehicle that second year because we had way more gear. We had 2 people, 2 bikes. And we had gotten some small shitty hotel room in Emporia, which we can talk about in a moment. But we rented a Ford Explorer, and it was when the Explorer changed body style to the modern version, which it now turns out is like poisoning people and making people black out and all this stuff because there's something weird about it. But the malfunction that we had was we got everything loaded in the car. We had the bikes on the bike rack at my parents' house in Kansas City. Yeah. Literally, like, turned on the car, went like 5 feet, and like the axle broke or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was, but the car was inoperable.
Yeah. And it wouldn't budge. Like
it would not move.
Yeah, not even inches. And so, it was just like, oh, great. We had it's not even enough time to have like a rental car company come out and fix it, right? It's the night before the race.
Yeah.
And
it was like 4 p.m. or something. We were racing the next day. We had to be up at like 4:30 in the morning the next day.
We had, how long is the drive? An hour, 2 hours?
It's like an hour and a half.
An hour and a half out there. Yeah. And it was, yeah, dude, at that point, it was pretty stressful. Yeah. So we ended up taking
my mom's car.
Your mom's car.
Yeah, my mom still drives a Subaru, but she had a Subaru Outback at the time. It really wasn't big enough for all of our stuff, but my mom was like, sure, take the car. We loaded everything in there, took off, got there, got to the hotel. I think we went to Applebee's probably.
We definitely went to Applebee's, dude.
Yeah.
There was an awesome acoustic performer there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, playing like Journey covers. It was great. Yeah, it really got me pumped up.
Yeah. Tesla, not the motor company, but Signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5-man acoustic jam, Tesla, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe threw in like a Toad the Wet Sprocket cover.
Yeah.
It was relaxing though. There was something really magical about that night at Applebee's. Great vibe.
Yeah, it endeared me to Applebee's from there on out. Every time I see one, it warms my heart.
Yeah. But I think that it's something notable about you and me when it comes to bike racing. I listen to the Trainer Road podcast a lot, and they've had an interesting series in the last 2 weeks where they've interviewed all the members of the Stands Pivot Pro team about like what's their pre-race routine, like what do they eat, how do they sleep, whatever. A lot of them travel with their own pillow. That's a great idea. They were to the T though. They were all like, yeah, I'm not that neurotic about what I eat before a race. Just kind of like I need like my macros are kind of like this or whatever. I'm super neurotic, and I've realized maybe I'm overly neurotic about what I eat.
Yeah,
I have to be in total control of my food prep. This all kind of changed after this year at Kansas. I became more neurotic.
Yeah,
but at the time we ate at Applebee's, and then we headed back to the hotel, eager to get that good night of sleep. 3 people in this small hotel room with like cigarette burns in the sheets kind of deal. And I remember like going in, it was the kind of hotel, maybe it's a motel, I don't know what it is, but like there was like the balcony here, and all of our neighbors next door were outside, and there was like empty cases of Bud Light, maybe Bud Light Lime.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big Friday night in Emporia. So
yeah, it was going off. There was a hotel party.
Yeah. And okay.
They may have been cooking meth in that room.
Yeah. Our friend, so we had been using a pump from Andrew's parents' house that had a broken gauge, and we had pumped our tires up to what we thought were 45 psi, and we hadn't been riding these tires for very long and this setup, and so we were like, this feels really like not much air, like this does not feel like the right pressure to be running, but this is what everybody says. And our friend Josh had a digital pressure gauge,
right,
and we put it on, and it wasn't even like registering. Like our pressure was that low. And so if it weren't for that, and this is all the night before, by the way. So
yeah,
we're going back there and we're dialing in our bikes for the whatever 100th time we've done in that stretch after we've gotten them out of the car and they made the trip without
after flying with our bikes to Kansas City as well, which is, it's always so fun to take the bike that you're going to do this race on, stick it in a small container and let luggage handlers throw it around. Yeah.
So anyways, if it hadn't been for Josh and his pressure gauge, we definitely would have like pinch flatted in the first 10 miles of this race. I remember that and want to give shout outs to Josh to be hey.
Yeah. Shout out Josh to be hey. And that's bringing to mind for me a detail I forgot about the first year that I did Dirty Kansas, which is, I think we might've stayed in that same hotel the first year I did it, Molly and I. And I remember getting there, and I had to store the bike inside of the car on the drive from Kansas City to Emporia that first year. And when I was assembling it, I realized my wheels had gotten totally messed up when I had been flying, and I started trying to true the wheels.
Man. It's always a great thing to do at like midnight.
It's like midnight the night before the race, almost broke a spoke. And in fact, that first year, I remember my first ride after the race, I did break a spoke.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't happen in the race. So yeah, year 2, we get everything ready. Blake and I have done a lot of these big events together. I'm not a great sleeper the night before a big event.
Yeah.
Another thing I've discovered from this podcast, from my career, is most professional athletes are pretty relaxed until they have to not be relaxed. And that's part of why they're professional athletes. This is just something I was doing for fun on top of like a demanding job, like most of the other competitors there, like Blake and other people. But I didn't handle the pressure very well, and I don't know if I really slept much that night before the race.
No, and I mean I can attest to this. Every time we go to do something like this, sleep is not really. I mean, you always try and make it a priority. It's just you don't unwind very well. You get super stressed out, and I'm similar. But but
You're similar, but you're totally asleep.
Yeah, but I'm totally asleep.
You're
yeah.
totally asleep.
Yeah.
Usually right away.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, you know what? I think I need to get on that foam roller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. And then you start like looking at your phone, and then which you're much better at now. But yeah, it quickly spirals into 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep.
Right. So the alarm goes off probably 4:30 in the morning, and that's when you have to like scarf down a large breakfast.
Yeah.
Generally, because you're about to be on that bike for a really long time.
Yeah, and take care of whatever kind of bio needs that you may have at that time.
Yeah.
And if you usually have that stuff dialed in, what I have realized is that your body is not properly digested maybe some of those things in the time frame that it normally does, and so I often get pre-race stress around,
Have you gotten rid of everything?
Exactly. Yeah. Or even does it even start, and when is it going to start? And I got to put on, and so, so that's always a morning stress for me whenever we ride.
Right.
I don't think I had a good movement that morning.
But one of the things I would like to call out here, because I think that this was a very smart thing that we did, and that other people out there probably do as well. But you don't want to mess around with like having to go get your coffee at 4:30 in the morning.
Right.
Like you actually probably can't do that in most places. I know there are a lot of people now who are traveling with hand grinders and AeroPresses. There wasn't a lot of that going on. We weren't getting around in Conestoga wagons, but it was a different time 6 or 7 years ago, or whenever we did this. We'll get the actual dates, but we had gotten coffee the night before at Starbucks so that we had it ready to go that morning. And some foreshadowing here, I had gotten a coffee. I'd gotten like a couple of shots of espresso to grab mid-race at the rest stop, because when we were doing our really big training rides, that's actually mirrored very closely what we did, because we would often make a very quick pit stop in Point Reyes and get a couple of shots of espresso.
Yeah, and try and do it. Yeah,
foreshadowing.
Yeah. So we ride out to the start of the race, which was a few miles from our hotel.
Right.
And we're like, oh, great. It'll be because that's what you need.
You need to open your legs up before a 105-mile race.
Yeah.
It's going to take 5 to 7 hours.
Which actually ended up, I think being warm at the start of that race is important now, because it being in a good position at the beginning, going onto that first chunk of gravel is so important. But obviously it's not, you don't want to have to put more miles on your legs at this stage.
Yeah.
So we ride out there. We find our little group, our enclave. The 200 milers start off, and then we get on the line.
And we had been waiting a while. So you get there, you have to queue, and it was pretty cold actually.
Yeah, it was cold.
It's probably for people who live in actual cold climates, we're from California, we're a little bit soft, but I'm guessing it was probably high 40s.
Yeah.
High 40s probably.
Yeah.
We had a light sweat. I recall having like a little bit of a sheen.
Yeah. I definitely, because I was kind of nerves and being cold, I was shaking a little bit, and you looked over at me and you said, man, you really need to eat a hamburger.
Yeah. And we also, something I picked up from my first cycling coach I had, David Brenton, who's based in LA, an amazing cycling coach, amazing bike handler, great technique coach, and just like an overall, he's a great person. Really learned a lot from Dave. But I remember one of the things Dave sharing with me, because he had been a crit racer during the 7-Eleven epoch, when people like Ron Kiefel, Davis Finney, and others were out there just destroying everyone in the world, or particularly on the American crit circuit. And he told me that what Davis would do, everybody would be doing their warm-up laps. You'd have to line up 20 minutes before the race or whatever at a crit, and Davis would just ride the course backwards and then just turn around and back his bike into the front row. Granted, he had kind of earned his right to do that, but like that was like my big move. I was like, yeah I'm starting on the front line for sure. Yeah. So I pulled the Davis Finney.
Yeah, and like many things in bike racing, I don't have the same courage or chutzpah as Andrew, and so when we race, I have to I borrow it from him, and I'm like, well, if Andrew's doing it, I got to do it, because I know that, like, and it's anything, if it's making a move, if it's descending faster than I'm comfortable descending. You pushed me out of my comfort zone. So that was definitely, you're like, hey bro, we're on the front line. Like we're here. We have a purpose.
Yeah, we were there to race.
Yeah.
You do what you can get away with.
Yeah. So gun goes off, and the lead out it's sort of a neutral lead out. There's a car.
It's a police car. The police lead you out of town.
Yeah, down the main street of Emporia, Kansas.
It's similar to being a world leader.
Yeah. and
there are about 20,000 people who are out cheering for you. It's, of all the bike race experiences I've had, it's a pretty amazing emotional experience.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely it's the biggest thing that happens in that town all year, and the community is so warm. It's wild. You'll be riding, we'll get back to this, but you'll be riding along, these sort of farm roads, and you'll go through basically someone's front yard, and they will all be sitting in the front yard cheering for you. And you feel like, like you're a pro. It feels like you're, in Europe or something, and having these people come out and be really excited about your racing.
You're the somebody you always thought you could be.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So after you, I don't know, it's about a mile or so, maybe 2 miles, you take a right turn onto the first chunk of gravel. And at this point, the car accelerates faster than theoretically you can pedal on flats, and that's how it pulls away from you. So we're all going, 20, 25 miles an hour when we make this right-hand turn. And my bike handling, as Andrew pointed out before, is not great. And you immediately have this really uncomfortable, wishy-washy feeling when your tires hit gravel going that speed, kind of turning, and you're in not a rut, but like a chunk of clear path that's a foot.
Yeah, they're ruts. It's where a vehicle's wheels would go.
Yeah, it's about a foot wide.
That are worn into the road on either side of a road.
And if you veer out of it, right, to pass the person in front of you or to make any kind of move, or maybe you're just getting sloppy, it's this flint rock that will likely wash your wheel out and give you a sidewall tear, and that will be your day. And you're pace lining on gravel, which at this point I had not done much of, and your front wheel is inches from the person's wheel in front of you, and the margin for error is very small. And so as we're beelining, Andrew pointed out before, you start coming across people from the 200-mile race that are going at a 200-mile pace, and they're off the back, right? Because you're hitting the slowest people from the race that started in front of you first. And it's scary because you have to pass these people going very fast. And it's pretty uncomfortable. And like I said, all I could tell myself, and I've told myself this a lot of times in my life riding bikes with Andrew, was just don't let him get away. Like if he can do it, you can do it. Just don't let him get away. Yeah. And so, like I said, I borrowed a lot of courage from Andrew, I think, that first year.
And that first hour of the race, as Blake pointed out, it's incredibly intense because there's not a lot of room on the road. You don't want to move laterally necessarily, as Blake pointed out, because there's all this sharp flint rock. You get out of the groove, you're likely to get a flat tire, but you also have to be very conscious of what the flow of the group is, because there are a lot of people riding way over their head, particularly within that first 15 to 20 minutes. And then they're just completely dying, and then you're stuck behind them, and then the race is riding away from you. I think for people that ride and have a power meter, and I said I wanted to have kind of an optimal setup that year. So I had a power meter on the bike. I had disc brakes. I didn't have tubeless wheels, which would have been better, but those are some of the upgrades that I had that year. And I remember looking at that power file afterwards, and my normalized power was right around my lactic threshold. It was like around 340 or 350
Dude.
watts for like almost a full hour. We were riding very, very hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you just had to hang on, because like once you get into all the people, the traffic like kind of coming backwards from the 200, where people are starting to get dropped or they're just going a slow, steady pace. If you get stuck behind the wrong combination of people or they're blocking the road, then just like the race is going away from you. So we were doing everything we could to hang with that front group and not have a mechanical, not have a flat. And then once we got through that first hour, it got a little bit better. The pace chilled out a little bit. We ended up getting into a good groove. We got into like a nice pace line with a decently large group of people. That year, nutrition wise, one of my other big innovations, which you see a lot of these days, but I want to claim that like I may have been one of the first running a bento box at gravel races.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that you're, the fanny pack cyclists, the guys with the St. Bernard bag off the front of their handlebars. Like I would say you really, you set the trend with the bento box on your gravel bike.
Yeah, I think I even started a crew called the Bento Boys.
Yeah, I remember
if I remember correctly.
Definitely.
No one else joined the group, or I was a crew of one. I was trying to get hashtag Bento Boys to take off, and it didn't take off. But I think I was running almond butter and jelly sandwiches that year. That's what I've been rocking in training. I had a formula. I needed to eat like half a sandwich per hour, and I had like
there's nothing sadder than watching Andrew like pull like chunks of Hawaiian bread and like gelled up mush from this tiny little dusty bento box in the middle of his bike, and like trying to shove them in his dry mouth as we're riding at limit. It's a hard sight to see.
That's correct. So if you want to replicate this recipe at home, it's a Hawaiian roll with almond butter and jelly. That's what I was rocking.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of those. I think
so many.
I don't remember. I had done the math. I had figured out I can utilize about 300 calories an hour. I don't know how many grams of carb that is, but I think it's around 90 grams of carb. Mm-hmm. I can do in an hour. Anyhow, I had to keep eating. And the thing is, when you're doing an event this long, nutrition is critical, and you have to eat so much, and you have to find foods that are not just palatable, but that you can digest cleanly, smoothly, without having any GI distress. So I had been eating these sandwiches for months and months.
Yeah.
On these training rides.
Exactly. Yeah. And like same with Cliff products. So this isn't an endorsement, no shout out to Cliff, but they're ubiquitous at these kind of events. And so that the likelihood of you finding a Cliff product, a Cliff bar, Cliff gel, or block is very high. And so I frequently lean on Cliff products just because I know, hey, they're going to be there. I can go to any supermarket in America and pick this up. And so I eat them a lot in training.
Organic, made right here in America. Right in the heart of Emeryville is where they're based. Yeah. Like not far from where we're talking today.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what I had in my bento box. The weather was not bad that year, but there were some patches of mud.
Yeah, it was hot. And yeah, there was some mud, but nothing really technical. The biggest, again, my biggest barrier here was technical ability, is handling. And so this group that Andrew talks about, it's a good, strong group. And we're losing people in this group as we go on, right? Because a lot of people write checks they can't cash throughout the duration of the race.
In bike racing, this is what's called shelling people. People were getting shelled.
Yeah. People that also maybe weren't doing enough work or whatever, they weren't doing a ton of work on the front and they were just holding on the back, and eventually they get rotated off and they're out there in no man's land. The group is dwindling, and we pull into town with the guys, right? We pull into town with a group of people.
Are you talking about, are we to the rest stop already?
I think we're at the rest stop.
No, but let's back up here a minute.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Before we get to the rest stop, when we were about probably maybe 25 to 30 miles into the race, and we managed to stay on course.
Yeah.
I had turn by turn on my Garmin. Likewise, this year. I learned how to use that incredible innovation. And the level of talent that showed up that year, I'm thinking it was 2013.
That sounds right.
I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
But a new level of talent had showed up in 2013, and these people were ready to get down.
Yeah.
They were ready to get down.
Yeah,
Like
there were some shaved
it
legs.
it was a real rumble at the front of the race that year. It got pretty nasty. A lot of people punching, and there was a shakeout. There was a selection, and like it was a very, very strong lead group. And as Blake said, there started to be some attrition, and some people were getting shelled, but it was a very hard race. And it was very important once we got into that bigger working group around that 25 to 30 mile mark to just stay with it as long as we could or until the pace slowed down. And I remember at one point reaching into my hot pink bento box, which I had gotten off of Amazon for around $7. And I got the pink one because it was cheaper. And I remember right as I reached down, I had all my pressure on my left hand.
I forgot this.
And my, I was running carbon bars because they're, gotta run those carbon bars.
Grams, bro.
Yeah, grams. They're absorbing vibration. They're actually they were pretty good, but they slipped. They slipped in the stem and they rotated down. So I almost wrecked while I was trying to choke down this disgusting piece of wad of dry Hawaiian bread with mud and sand in it. That was not highly palatable at that moment in time. Trying to squirt some water in my mouth, and my bars had rotated forwards. Now, I was carrying less gear this year, for sure. I had a much more pared down set of kit, but I did have a multi-tool, and I had to come off of the group, and we're on gravel. It's sketchy. We're going very fast. We're probably going between 20 and 25 miles an hour. I remember it was like a downhill stretch.
Yeah, that's when you did it. Yeah, I was behind you, and Andrew doesn't handle surprises well, and it was I definitely remember hearing ah! And I was like, what the hell? And your handlebars are turned totally south. I was like, well, that's our day. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fun start.
Yeah, but I fished my multi-tool out. I didn't stop. I managed to rotate them back into place, and I really, really cranked them down.
Yeah, it was Sagan level skill. It seriously would have. It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a bike race. I'm serious. You got out your multi-tool and started working on your own damn bike. As we're hauling ass and in this super sketchy condition. So it was impressive.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot it. I'm glad you brought it back up. Yeah.
And then we got into a good group. There was a bit more of a selection, and we ended up we were basically at that point around 40 to 45 miles. These were the people, somebody was going to win the race.
Yeah.
And we kind of made a decision we were going to hang with this group. I think we had maybe 5 to 6 people. There were a couple riders from Kansas City that I was familiar with who I knew were strong. They were working hard. And part of what's cool about this race is you can actually see really far when you're on top of the hills. You can kind of visually gauge how far ahead of or behind other riders you are. We had a pretty good gap on the people behind us, but we knew we had to keep pressing forward. And we also had no idea if the people we were with were going to blow up. Now, I didn't have tubeless tires that year, but we had a guy in our group who was a really strong rider who was running tubeless, and he was running the only tubeless tires that were really available at that time, which were cyclocross widths.
Yeah,
so they were 33s,
yeah.
30s or 33s. Just, mental note, if anybody out there wants to try racing Dirty Kansas, don't show up with 30 mil or 33 mil tires.
Yeah.
It's a real bad idea. Anyhow, so he ended up, I don't know if he was burping the tires or what, or if
I think he had a slow leak.
He had a slow leak.
Yeah.
But we had to make a decision as a group. Are we going to stop and wait for this guy to fuck around with this, or do we keep going? And he was really strong. I think we had maybe 5 riders.
It would have made a big difference. I mean, each one of us would have been taking on another 15% of work had we lost him.
But it was us, and then I think the other 3 guys of those 2 were friends with the dude who had the leak, so they stopped with them. And I don't think we didn't want to ride off the front with 60 plus miles to go.
Yeah, and it would have just been just a not cool move to do at that point. I don't know.
I just felt
kind of gross.
Felt kind of gross. In gravel racing today, it definitely would happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, we didn't do it. And so we ended up waiting for him, kind of soft pedaling. He got back on. we started cooking again. And that's at the point at which this dude who was riding a single speed mountain bike got into our group. And like, we started getting into this like yo-yo scenario where he would go a little bit ahead of us. Then we get to a climb, and we definitely were turning the screws on this dude every time we got on a climb, because he was light and he was really fast on the climbs. So I think we were hanging with him on the climbs, but then we get to the downhill and it was just like big ring, try to gap this guy. We kept gapping him, which makes someone tired when they have to catch up to you over and over again, and kind of sometimes subtly accelerating away from him, other times making
a statement.
Making a statement. But he kind of kept coming back on, and he stuck with us all the way into that first rest stop. The thing about that rest stop, and something I had learned from my first year, is it's actually really hard to find your support crew in that rest stop. And Molly had done an excellent job of being in a really high visibility location. It was super easy to find, which was a definite competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And we rode up. She had everything ready. It was like lightning fast stop. What do you remember about the rest stop?
Being so impressed with you being able to actually get in and out of someplace that fast. And Andrew is not known to be the quickest kind of pit stop guy. Sometimes, but you were so fast. I think you were done and out before I was. And I was like, oh man, I just cracked my Coke.
Right.
And, but yeah, no, I mean, Molly picked the perfect spot. She was at the end of the main strip of this little town that we rode into.
It was in like a classic town with the town square and city hall in the middle of the town square. Really charming little city. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And, at this point, when we got into town, we knew that the lead rider in our group was not far. We had come into town and people were like, oh, he just came in here.
It was the single speed guy.
The single speed guy on the mountain bike. He got away from us. And so I remember just pure adrenaline at that point. We got back on our bikes and just took off. And
then the notable thing for me about that rest stop is then that is when I had my double espresso.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, we'll get into later. And so we get back into the group with our guys.
Right. So
which is now
two or three other guys.
Yeah. Now we've got 2 guys, you and I.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this gentleman's on the tubeless setup is still losing air. And so it feels like, oh God, like you're, it just feels like you're on a sinking ship and you've got one guy who just can't bail water anymore. And you keep looking over at him and you're like, if we just threw you off the ship, this thing would be sinking at a much slower pace.
In bike racing, for people who don't understand bike racing or haven't participated in it, bike racing is not an individual sport. Bicycle racing is a team sport at the highest levels of the sport, and also at lower levels of the sport, there's a lot of cooperation involved until there isn't. You have to find how to leverage cooperation and trust building, and then you have to violate all of that trust, stop cooperating, be selfish, and do something dominant if you want to win.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Yeah. So we continue riding on, and I can't remember if the train happened before or after your stomach started turning. So we got, as these events go, they are, like I said, unsupported, and which is part of the excitement of them. But at one point, we're coming up to the top of these hills. We see the guy that we're chasing.
I totally forgot about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. This is like another factor that led to us losing the race. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, no, I think about it a lot, actually. And we can see off in the distance a train coming into the line of that we're taking, right? So like the path that we're on has train tracks across it as it hits a little bit of road.
And we're on the ridge of a hill. We're looking out like a mile.
Yeah.
And we can see this guy.
Yeah.
And we can see like we're going to snake down this gravel road. We're hauling ass. And this is like a differential equation.
Yeah.
And as we're like approaching the train tracks, the train is roaring up. This is evocative of I think it was Paris-Roubaix, like 2010.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah, exactly. Same stakes.
Yeah.
And dude, we get stuck behind a train. And it's in my mind, in my memory, like this train was a freaking mile long.
You know what? It probably was a mile long.
Yeah.
And they're not moving real slow right there through the Emporia area. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
They're freight trains, but they're hauling freight. They're not hauling ass.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just we just sat there with like,
it was brutalizing.
Oh,
it's coming back to me now. I'm getting shivers. I'm getting a bit of a cold sweat down the back of my neck, Blake.
yeah, man, it appropriately so. When I think about the way this race went, there are many things that I could have controlled, and this was not one of them. And it's just devastating. So yeah, we sit there and watch this train go in front of us while the leader of the race, or we think is the leader of the race, is pedaling fast away. So the train lets up, we go through town, and then somebody's tummy starts getting a little upset.
Yeah, before we get to the stomach, I want to go back to what I was saying about cooperation and competition. It's not just about an ethos, it's about the fact that a group of cyclists working together from a wind resistance and workload perspective can move much faster than an individual generally. And what you see in professional bike racing, when you see someone break away, sometimes it's because there's a stronger rider, but often it's because that people are making a wager who remain in the group behind that they collectively can work together in a manner that will get them to the finish line ahead of that rider who's taking the risk of moving away. Right. And yeah, so in this particular instance, we were still, we left the rest stop. We were, 40 plus miles from the finish, and there was a lot of wind and a lot of road to cover before we got there. So we had gotten past the train, which I think I've just like some kind of like mind eraser thing. I ended up writing about this race for Cyclocross magazine. I did a race report, and I think in my like 4,000 word, very self-indulgent race report, I don't think that I wrote about the train. I think I've forgotten about it until now. I'll put a link to that piece in the show notes for people who want even more after listening to this exhaustive account. But I think on the upside, so far on this day, we hadn't had any mechanicals. That dude had been having a mechanical in our group, but not us. Like my legs felt great. Yeah. I was on fire. I was on really good form, no cramps. And then we have this train situation, but we're past the train situation. And I know in my mind, I was like, we're going to catch this dude and we're going to totally smoke this fool. Yeah. That's how I felt. So we kept going, but I have to say, it's at this point when I'm starting to regret the double espresso. It's like, it's starting to talk to me. Yeah. It's starting to talk to me, and what it's saying is we've got a Houston. We've going back to that astronaut thing from the beginning of the show. Yeah. I might tell her one of the lessons learned is like, don't drink that double espresso in the middle of the dirty cans of half pint unless you've got maybe a titanium stomach, which I didn't have. Things were starting to rumble. I was having a problem, and it was clear that there was going to need to be a correction of the situation. Yeah. And that's when, if you don't know Blake, you don't know that, or if you haven't ridden with him, he's usually wearing a cycling cap. And going back to something I learned from, or this is an old story about Greg LeMond, that Greg LeMond during the Tour de France was having some stomach issues. He was having some problems, and this is allegedly part of why pro cyclists wear cycling caps. Is sometimes they need somewhere to do their business or to wipe things up, and that's kind of, I remember that, and I was like, I was carrying everything. Among the things I was carrying was some toilet paper in case of an emergency.
This man is always prepared.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I knew that I had some somewhere on my person, but it's hard to describe how much stuff you have to carry. I probably had like 12 of those Hawaiian roll sandwiches in tinfoil shoved in all my jersey pockets, like an extra water bottle and a pump, a multi-tool, a bunch of other stuff. But I couldn't fish out the toilet paper, and I was starting to panic because I was like, number one, I have to go. Number two, I don't think this group is like going to hang out for us who we've been waiting for. But it just got to a point where it was debilitating. I stopped. There was a ditch on the side of the road. I ducked in there. I was like, Blake, this is when you know you've got a great friend. I was like, Blake, I need your hat, man. And Blake took the hat off.
Yeah. I'm a good friend.
Blake took the hat off.
Yeah. Which you didn't end up using it.
I didn't end up using it. I'll tell you what, I felt a lot better after that. I did end up finding the toilet paper.
And then we were back on our bikes. And by the way, like the looks of the gentlemen we were riding with are very nice guys. They're definitely from the Midwest, and scatological humor is likely not something that comes up a lot in their conversation with strangers, who at this point we kind of were, and the dialogue between us around the urgency of this particular urgency was just great candor from those gentlemen.
Yeah. Something had to happen.
Yeah.
As I recall, they kind of did the thing we had done earlier with that dude's like slow league situation. Like they kind of soft pedaled.
Yeah.
I took care of stuff, back on the bike. I felt a lot better, and then we were off.
Yeah.
We were off, and then that he had some situation where he had to stop again, and like we were like, and they had just stopped for us, but that we were kind of like,
point, dude, yeah. Dude, when you're in the last quarter of a race, you have no friends. Like
sometimes you never have friends in a race. In this particular race, though, that cooperation, competition, balance, like the elastic had snapped, and it was time to go for the jugular.
Yeah, and so we let them sort the flat out for themselves, and we kept going.
Yeah, and then maybe 10 to 15 miles later,
I got a flat.
Blake got a flat.
Yeah. And I don't know, for whatever reason, this is one of this is sort of Andrew's train, the thing that kind of haunts him sometimes.
It haunts me.
Yeah.
Having the bathroom thing haunts me for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because that was at least 3 minutes, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And so Andrew was like, hey, just sort your business.
I mean, I had to fully disrobe. I was, just to be candid, I was nude in that ditch. I was, the way bike clothes work. Like I was pretty much naked
there were
on
some
the side
very,
of the road.
very scarred cows out there.
I think those guys they were like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Also, because I was like as fast as I could tearing off bike clothes, because like Jersey, you have bibs on. You're not wearing bike shorts. You've got bibs on that have like suspenders attached to the shorts. The whole thing's got to come off.
Yeah.
And I've got a low squat.
Yeah. So anyways, I get this flat, and Andrew doesn't stop, but he's like, hey, I'm going to soft pedal up the road. You sort this out. And it's kind of awkward with these tires. They don't seed until you overinflate them past where you want them to be. So they don't fall into the rim, right?
It was the particular wheels you were running. You were running Mavic has great wheels. You had Mavic Cerium wheels.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal was. You always had trouble with like the bead was always super tight on your wheels.
Yeah.
And you had some trouble getting it back on there. And also I think we were using a pump. We didn't use CO2 ever.
No, we were using a hand pump.
We're using a hand pump. Anyhow,
man. But
Blake was struggling with it a little bit. I started soft pedaling, and then I think did I come backwards or did I just keep riding?
You looped back. So once I got my stuff sorted, I was riding out, and I think you looped back and found me chasing you.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we both stopped, and then you looked at my tire, and then I think you did something. You put more air into it.
I think I pumped it up more because Blake is a very fit person, but you get gassed out actually, like pumping up tires. Sure. And I think also, like, even at the time, to be honest, just to be candid, like, we're friends, but I also was thinking, like, fuck this. Like, this is going to be the end of my race. It's time for me to go.
Yeah.
And I think I second guessed myself. We're still fairly far out. There was a big headwind, and it just kind of felt like, this is probably not the right thing to do for the race. And also, like, as your friend, I think I kind of felt like an asshole.
Yeah.
And like looking back on it, I think I can still change the tire way faster than you.
Definitely.
In retrospect, that was just totally stupid of me. I should have stopped and helped you fix your tire.
Yeah.
I've said sorry before, Blake, but I'm going to say it again now in this forum. I'm sorry. I should have helped you with your tire.
Thanks, man. I accept your apology. I forgive you if that makes you. I mean, I forgive you. And yeah.
So we got it sorted out, kind of, and ironically, that was the same stretch of road as this really, really big set of rollers. And that's where I had helped that woman the first year who had like 5 flats because she had flatted in that same stretch.
Yeah.
So here we were a year later. We're within spitting distance of winning this race if we can stop having challenges running into trains, so to speak, and get the tire fixed. And I mean, we were all out for the next hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
Left in the race. We were hauling ass. Like, I haven't looked at the power file for that part of the race, but we were riding very, very hard, trading poles like every minute or whatever, all the way back into Emporia. Yeah. Really. And we never got a visual on that dude again.
No.
Never got a visual on the dude
and
again.
It's almost like a mirage. Like, you come to the top of one of those hills and you're like,
right.
Is that him? Is that him? And then you kind of fool yourself into thinking it is him and that he's there. He was never there. Yeah. And it was hard. Yeah. So we
many times I remember very concretely, vividly thinking like, I can see him.
Yeah.
Because as you run back into Emporia, it's probably like a 10 or 15 mile stretch where you're running almost due south.
Yeah.
And you're getting a strong crosswind coming out of the west, blowing west to east. It was blowing hard, but way better than riding into a headwind, which we've been doing a lot of the day.
Yeah.
So like the wind was a little better, and it's like you have like a very long, like the horizon's a couple miles off at that point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like stair stepping down. And I remember thinking like, I can see him, like we've got this dude.
And like, it's so frustrating because it's the guy's doing everything wrong. He's riding the wrong bike with the wrong setup. He's riding a single speed alone. Like, that guy should not beat 2 guys on very light bikes made specifically for this event, like working together, hauling ass.
Yeah, and he was totally kicking our asses.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah,
yeah.
And honestly, for me, I didn't believe it. I thought the dude had like flatted out and quit the race or something because I just felt like there's no way this dude is still ahead of us. And there were points when you could see like for more than a mile up the course.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't see the guy. So I was like, okay. After a while, after kind of having a number of these Mirage experiences, I remember thinking like, man, maybe the dude just like, I don't know, like flatted out. I took a wrong turn the year before. Maybe he took a wrong turn. Then you like run back into, you're starting to get closer to Emporia. You pass Casey's General Store on the west side of the street while you're heading southbound. You go through some residential areas, and then you like go through like one more stretch of gravel, and then you go onto the campus of Emporia State. And from there, you then are on Main Street in Emporia. Like you cross a major street. I don't remember if we got a green light or not.
We got a green light that year.
Yeah, we got a green light that year. If you don't, you just have to sit there and wait. And then that's when that's when our cooperation was over.
Yeah, it's an appropriate place to end cooperation.
Yeah, like when it's the end of the race.
When it's the end of the race, yeah. And so then it was just out of saddle, kind of full sprint between both of us.
Yeah.
And Andrew is a much faster sprinter than I am, and he took the win between the two of us. And as we found out at that point, he took second in the overall race because the gentleman on the single speed did not take a wrong turn.
He did not take a wrong turn. He won. And I remember inquiring as to what
the fuck just happened? Who is this clown?
I don't know if I said that. I wasn't totally confident that the gentleman had ridden the entire course and finished the race at the end. I was a little bit fatigued. I'd gone pretty deep.
Yeah, and for the record, just so you know, you and I actually hold the KOM for that course.
I believe that I hold the KOM for that course.
I checked this morning. Yeah.
I'm not sure how you moved ahead of me on the leaderboard.
It doesn't make any sense that I would own the KOM, considering I admit you won, but for some reason I own the KOM
for 2000
whatever the year is.
Yeah, Dirty Kansas
half pint. Yeah, but I'm also wondering. So if
am I on the leaderboard? Am
you're
I
right
second?
behind me.
I'm second.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
If you know what, we don't have a time machine, so we're not going to be able to settle this.
It's like GPS drift or something. Like
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter because I beat you.
You beat me. Handedly and in a humiliating fashion.
It wasn't humiliating. Yeah, I did know. I was watching you, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to.
I think you even said are we gonna do this? And I was
we had to. Talk
you said we're gonna do this. I'm like, yeah, let's do this, and and that's how it went. But then no, I mean then like. I would call it, single speed gate took place, and we had people texting us shots of the start of the race, trying to put the single speed guy in.
Let's not
the
go
200.
Let's not go too deep into this.
God,
we didn't know what
we didn't buy into it. We definitely
we did not. I didn't see that guy at the start.
I mean, but
he won,
and we believe that he won by fair means.
I talked to him later and connected with him. Nice, yeah. No, I'm kidding. He's totally nice. He's from Kansas City. He's a cool dude, and he kicked my ass. So, chapeau, hats off.
So, I think, to put this in perspective, Andrew did absolutely everything that he could do to control for a win in this race. And we didn't win.
Yeah. Yeah, I got him. Like, that dude totally kicked my ass.
Yeah.
He kicked my ass handily. I remember getting to the finish line and finding out I hadn't won the race, which was a big surprise to me. And then I was like, oh, well, like, fuck, who won the race? Like, oh, this dude over here. And he's like sitting on the ground, drinking a beer. Yeah. Eating a piece of pizza or something. Didn't even look winded. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm just going to ride home.
Yeah, totally. Oh, you rode this race on those bikes? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, so that being said, we ended that race. And then for some reason we decided to do it again.
Unfinished business.
I
was like, I'm not going to have the same stomach problem.
Yeah.
The next year.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah. I mean, do you have time to get into
race 2?
Yeah. Race 2. Like you're almost at time here.
Yeah.
We might have to do another episode.
Round 2. Yeah.
If you haven't gotten enough of Dirty Kansas Tales, I think this might be the longest episode of Choose the Hard Way yet. I'll have to put some kind of preface on this that you need to have an appetite for bike racing and extreme detail if you want to listen to this one, I guess. But I want to cover the following year, which I believe was 2014, but we might have to set up another session for that one, Blake.
I agree. Yeah. And it was, I think that was an important race too. But anyways, so, from this experience, was it worse being DFL, or was it worse being second?
I think they were both great experiences. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Again, like this is an elective event that I chose to participate in a manufactured hardship of sorts in my life. But when you're a competitor with limited time and limited ability, as I am, the number of times you actually get to stand on top of that podium are pretty limited.
That's really
and
true.
Like when you think of the amount of, I mean, at this point, this is 2 years, like honestly, it's like 2 years of work had gone into getting to this moment in time and trying to win this race. And as we would see the following year, and you see even more so now, gravel racing, the level of competition that year was very, very high. It's now at a level where I don't know how competitive I could be, even if I had the time to put into training for it now.
Yeah.
That's a bit pessimistic. I believe I could still be competitive, but the bar is even higher. And I think, that was the best chance I ever had and the most time I ever had to put into having the best chance to actually win an iconic bike race.
Yeah.
And I almost did it, but you know what? I didn't. And forever, I will not have won the race.
Yeah.
I will be second place. But that made me go back and try to do it again the following year, which we'll talk about the next time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I did. I went there to learn about myself, and like, it was great. It was a great experience for us to have as friends.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and, you know, lessons learned when your buddy gets a flat. Actually, sometimes you should ride away from him. But that wasn't the right time. But I'm glad that you refreshed my memory about that train thing, so I'll just blame it all on that.
Yeah, blame it on the train.
Yeah, no, don't blame it on the train. Own it. You're responsible for everything that happens. But Blake, thanks for taking the time to rap about this today. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with people and going back to what the astronaut asked me about. You know, that's nice and all that you have this podcast and you're trying to help people learn from the hardships that people run into on their road to achieving something. I don't know how much of an achievement what we just described is, but we certainly overcame some challenges in order to try to achieve something that was actually really important to both of us, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't happen.
Yeah. For me, I mean, it stings. You know, since I've lost many, I've lost many other things
I've gotten progressively worse at bike racing as time has gone on.
But it is interesting to be like, all right, I've done everything I could possibly do to prepare, and this is where we ended up. You know, with a few variables there. It's regardless. I mean, I think the Rebecca Rush saying, right, is the one that always kind of comes to my head, and it's such a good analogy for these experiences, and it's a great analogy for life outside of it. And that's you'll experience great suffering and you'll experience great joy, and none of it for very long. And that bike race, that is a mantra that I repeat in my head when we're going through these bike races. And as I have gone on in my life, it's a mantra that I can apply to the way I live my life outside of bike racing. And, you know, these experiences, races like this, are such great lessons for dealing with that kind of roller coaster, you know?
Yeah. And whether people are interested in bike racing or tennis or stamp collecting, like whatever it is, find something big and go after it and see what happens. See what you learn about yourself. If you end up not being able to achieve it, or you don't achieve it the level that you want to, you're going to end up learning something along the way anyway. And you just need to keep going. You still might not get there, as we'll learn when we talk about the next attempt at Dirty Kansas.
Yeah.
But you'll lose differently the next time.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but it's always important to not stop. Just be relentless, and like don't let the flat tires, stomach problems, and unexpected trains blocking your forward progress stop you from becoming who you really are.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by the Better Lab. Sleep is the greatest performance enhancer on the planet, and the science to improve sleep is straightforward. Putting it into action on your own, on the other hand, can be challenging. That's why I co-founded the Better Lab, to help guide active people like you to mindfully build conscious, science-backed practices to sleep better that stick. We're an early stage startup, and right now, the Better Lab app is free in the Apple App Store. You can find the link to get the app in the show notes. Check it out, and as an early user, we want to hear your feedback to help us continually improve the product. You can learn more at thebetterlab.io.